This video is for educational overview only. Viewers are encouraged to study the topic in detail and continue their academic learning alongside this video. Thanks.
Absolute engine of software delivery. But as we start looking ahead, you have to wonder, what's next? What comes after the pipeline?
So let's start with a really provocative question. Is DevOps, the very thing that was supposed to speed everything up, actually starting to slow us down? It sounds kind of crazy, but as more and more companies get bigger, the very practices that made them fast are starting to show some serious cracks. And that really brings us to our first big idea here. DevOps might be hitting its ceiling. We're going to dig into the growing pains that, ironically, come from its own wild success.
I mean, just look at this number. We're seeing that over 80% of organizations have adopted DevOps in some form. It's not some edgy new thing anymore, it's just how software gets built. But that widespread success is exactly what's creating this whole new class of problems.
Because when you get to a certain size, that success creates some major headaches. You get this explosion of complexity. Every team has their own favorite tool or their own slightly different pipeline, and suddenly everything is fragmented. Developers are buried under this massive cognitive load, trying to be experts in everything. And worst of all, you end up with inconsistent governance and this heavy reliance on tribal knowledge. You know, that one person who knows how everything really works.
And this quote from Groen just nails it. As organizations grow, DevOps practices that once enabled speed often introduce friction instead. The culture that was all about empowerment and moving fast is now, in many places, grinding things to a halt.
So if that's the problem, what's the fix? Well, the first part of the answer involves a pretty fundamental shift, a shift towards intelligence.
Enter AIOps, which stands for Artificial Intelligence for IT Operations. Now that's a mouthful, but the idea is actually pretty simple. It's about using AI to make sense of the tidal wave of data our systems are constantly generating. We're talking about using machine learning and smart automation to seriously upgrade how we run things.
And this comparison just lays it all out so clearly. The old way of doing things was totally reactive. You'd set a static rule, like alert me if CPU is over 90%, and then you'd find out something broke after it happened. AIOps is proactive. It learns what normal looks like for your system, so it can spot weird behavior before it causes an outage. And instead of spending hours digging for a root cause, it can often pinpoint it for you in seconds.
So the bottom line is we're moving past simple rule-based automation. With AIOps, our systems can become adaptive. They can start predicting failures, optimizing themselves, and improving performance all on their own, without someone having to watch them 24/7.
But here's the thing. All that intelligence is great, but it's not enough if it's just floating in chaos. It needs a solid foundation to work on. And that brings us to the second, absolutely crucial part of the solution: platforms.
You see, relying on just a DevOps culture starts to break down when you have hundreds of engineers. It just leads to all that fragmentation we talked about. The real solution isn't to get rid of the culture, but to give it a structure to thrive in.
You can actually map out this evolution. We all started back in the day with these rigid silos, right? Dev throws code over the wall to ops. Then DevOps came along and broke down that wall with shared responsibility. But the next stage of maturity is to stop ad hoc collaboration and start treating your platform as a product, something you intentionally designed to be a shared, self-service foundation for everyone.
And that means you need a new kind of team. A traditional centralized DevOps team often ends up just being a service provider. They respond to tickets, they do tasks for other teams, and eventually they become a bottleneck. A platform team thinks differently. They're capability owners. They don't do the work for you. They build self-service tools that enable you to do the work yourself. And that, right there, is how you scale.
The actual thing they build is called an internal development platform, or an IDP. Think of it like a set of paved roads for your developers. It's this central place that gives them everything they need: self-service pipelines, reusable templates, standard tools, so they can ship code fast, but without creating chaos.
Okay, so we've got intelligence from AIOps, and we've got structure from platforms. So what happens when you put them together? What does that actually look like for teams on the ground, day to day? Let's talk about the AI-powered pipeline.
This is where things get really cool, because we're not talking about some far-off future. Look at these tools that exist today. You've got GitHub Copilot, which isn't just suggesting Python code anymore, it's suggesting infrastructure as code. It's helping you write the very blueprints of your cloud.
Then you have things like AWS DevOps Guru predicting problems and Dynatrace using AI to automate root cause analysis. AI is being woven directly into the tools we use every single day.
And this is a total game changer for security. For so long, security has been this reactive gatekeeper at the end of the pipeline. With AI, DevSecOps becomes a predictive partner. It can find vulnerabilities before they get exploited. It can automate responses to threats. It can even automate compliance for those big frameworks like SOC 2 and ISO 27001. Security is no longer a bottleneck. It's an intelligent part of the process from the very beginning.
So after all of this, where do we land? It'll be really easy to look at all these new ideas and say, okay, DevOps is dead. But that's not what's happening, not at all. The truth is, DevOps isn't dying, it's just growing up. It's evolving.
The new frontier, the next big leap in building great software, is this powerful combination. It's about bringing together intelligent, predictive systems with thoughtful, intentional platform design.
And this quote from Bruce Mason at Q Area just says it all. DevOps definitely isn't dying. Instead, it's becoming the default way to build and maintain software. The core ideas, the principles that made it so powerful, they're not disappearing. They're just getting absorbed and baked into this next evolution, into new roles like platform engineering.
And that really leaves us with one final question to think about. As you go back to your own work, ask yourself this: is your team just building individual pipelines, or are you consciously building a platform? Because the answer to that question might just define how well you can innovate and scale for years to come.